Hello, Hannah. How you doing?
I'm good, Aaliyah. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me on.
you're so welcome. I'm so excited to have you. Finally, we've been planning this conversation for a really long time. Um, Probably because so many of our conversations just between us actually do sound like podcasts once we get chatting. So I'm really happy to have you here on an actual podcast. As always, I'm going to begin with the question, what makes you rise?
What makes me rise? Like, as in what gets me up in the morning?
However you interpret that.
Well, why I rise is to help women reconnect to their wombs and to help them to create more balance in their health and well-being with a view to, inshallah, having a legacy, something to leave behind that perhaps people will remember me by. Yeah, I think that one of the main focuses that I have in my life.
I love that. That is such a good answer. Thank you so much. And actually, that's a really good segue to my first question, which was around what do you do? What is your work that you do to help women?
Well, you could call me a womb healer. Some people say that. But literally, I'm a Mizan therapist, which is someone that works with women's wombs and hormones to help them bring about better health and balance. And so what would you call me? What would you say, Al? Would you say I'm a womb healer? You know what I get quite a
Yeah,
lot is
if that's
you've got shifa in your hands, which I think is a really, really nice thing for people to say. I have heard this is something that, is probably said a lot in the Asian community when they get success from whichever holistic therapy that they embark upon, and they see that it makes a difference. They're like, oh, you've got shifa in your hands, which is really beautiful. But all of it is from Allah, of course. We're just vessels.
So I would definitely say that you've got shifa in your hands, because that's actually how I came to know you, because I came to you for healing when I had really terrible endometriosis all those years ago. And then we became friends.
Yeah, I mean,
And now we're working together on WeRise and our new venture, Rising Sisterhood. That's going to be opening middle of next month, which is crazy, May 2025. But you definitely did a lot to help me to realign my health, my womb health in particular, and just taught me so much about the necessity of having a healthy womb and how it's more than just the physical, but that there is an energetic and a spiritual and sort of other elements, metaphysical element to what the womb actually represents. So can you speak to that a little bit?
first of all, I wanted to say that what I wanted to say was that meeting you was an absolute game changer for me. I've met some incredible people through doing this work, and I think, you meet everybody for a reason, don't you? And you've helped and guided me through so much. And I'm most grateful, most grateful.
Why is it so important for women to connect to their wombs and to heal their wombs beyond just the physical? So obviously when you have physical disease, endometriosis like what I had, or infertility or fibroids or all the other kind of things that you help women with, beyond just the healing of physical disease, why is it important for women to have a relationship with their wombs and to keep their wombs healthy?
You know what it is that when we get symptoms of the womb, such as endometriosis and polyps, cysts, various problems can occur, and they're symptoms that come about from your womb trying to communicate to you. There may be something on an emotional level, it may be a physical level or a spiritual level where your womb needs healing. And what it is, especially in this country, we practically know nothing about our wombs and its magnetism, its sacredness, its beauty. We have, if you like, a disconnect, but I wouldn't call it a disconnect because perhaps we didn't even have a connection in the first place. When we go to school, you know, who teaches us about our womb, right? We're taught about how to brush our teeth twice a day. And if we have a problem, we have a symptom, we go to the dentist, and the dentist will help us and say, you know, use mouthwash or floss, or, you know, even take a tooth out. So there's lots of focus on that, but there's nothing to really connect us to our womb, or to connect us even to our femininity, I would say. So when we suffer from certain symptoms, it's a sign that things are out of balance and they need to be addressed. So your womb is giving you a message, you know, the symptoms are giving you a message. They're a message, if you like, from Allah to address something where perhaps you're not giving yourself enough rest. Perhaps you have some trauma to work through. Maybe you're just literally working so hard during your menstruation when we shouldn't be. Lots of women, they don't know that this is actually a time to rest and to recoup. And sometimes, you know, society forces that upon us because we're living in this patriarchal society, aren't we? Where we, you know, if you like, we follow the man's path. And so we're having maybe a 9-to-5 job, and we're not, in that respect, we're not able to address our own inner seasons, own times where we should be resting, because we're following the pattern of the male, if you like, the male hormone system, which is over 24 hours, which is completely just a different story from ours. So yeah, it's
Such a big
essential
topic.
to address, it's essential to create a relationship with your womb, and when you do, beautiful things can happen. Believe me.
I do believe you, Hannah, and I 100% know that from my own experience as well. It was one of the most profound things that I've ever done, is going on this journey of reconnecting with my womb, and then learning about the importance of living in tune with your menstrual cycle. And I know there's a lot more awareness of that nowadays, but it never used to be the case. And I think there's still a lot of women out there who just aren't aware of how important it is for us to live in a cyclical way, in alignment with our hormones. And when you do that, it's incredible. Like, your energy changes, your ability to meet life's challenges changes, and it's such a form of sacred self-care. And I think that's the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, is this concept of self-care and the difficulty that some Muslim women, or women in general, might have with prioritizing their self-care and their well-being. So I was wondering, what kind of challenges do you see in the women that you come across in your work? And also from the perspective of someone who wasn't born Muslim but became Muslim later on in life, so you've kind of got that insight into different communities and cultures. And if you think that there is, if the Muslim identity has any impact on how much we prioritize or don't prioritize our own well-being.
I think it may depend on your own, if you like, Islamic and religious experience. You know, we're often taught to have, if you like, patience, which is a beautiful quality to have, right? But oftentimes we have so much patience that we forget about our own needs. And I think this is probably the biggest discussion that I have, you know, across the board with all the women, is how that they've forgotten about their own needs, or even they've just pushed them to one side in the name of patience. So a lot of problems happen when we don't have boundaries, and that we put too much emphasis on the patience instead of thinking about, well, perhaps our body's an amana, and our health and our wealth and our mental health is something that is something to be cultivated and it deserves our attention. So it's finding a balance between them both, really. So, you know, having patience at the cost of your health, I don't think that's Islamic. So many women, when we start the discussion, we talk about these things, you know, they have those aha moments where they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And my body is an amana. And if I just took care of my body a little bit better, then I would have more energy and more patience anyway. You know, I mean, we say you can't give from an empty cup. And I mean, that phrase has been thrown around so many times, but it's so true that we really need to be able to recuperate, refill, recharge, and then we can give more authentically from our energy to others, but always leaves, don't let it get to the, overflowing where you've used up all your energy. You have to reserve some for yourself, some for others, and so on.
That is such a beautiful way of explaining it. And I know that's going to help so many people, like it's helped me as well, to just find that balance between, patience and self-care. And then also what you mentioned about taking care of others. Because I think for me, a lot of the time in this kind of modern concept, this Western concept of self-care, it is sometimes driven and tainted by the very individualistic sort of capitalist consumerist approach to well-being, which has kind of almost colonized the well-being industry, that it's about you and only you. And even the phrase, putting yourself first, I find that doesn't completely sit right with me, because when we put ourselves first, it means that we're not putting others first, and it's creating sort of this false binary, this false dichotomy between ourselves and others. Whereas actually, from an Islamic point of view, we believe in unity consciousness, in Tawheed, and it's that actually there is no separation between us and them, or me and you, and that what benefits me benefits you, and what benefits you benefits me, and it's more that idea of collective care is self-care, and self-care is collective care.
I love that. That's amazing. You know what it is, right? You mentioned modern day times, how there's so much focus on, if you like, yourself and your own needs and so on and so forth. Now, this is where we need to create the balance. I mean, there's nothing worse than, we're living in this selfie era now, aren't we? So it's like everybody is taking selfies, looking at themselves, trying to gain perfection. And we also feel like we're never quite good enough. So there's a lot of focus on the outward beauty. And, we all like to look, present, we like to look beautiful, if you like, and we are beautiful, but it's tipped the balance. So how we are looking at ourselves, what we should be doing is looking outwards, looking to others, looking to their needs. Now, it's good to take care of your own needs, but as you mentioned, if you don't take care of other people's needs, you don't gain true fulfillment anyway. So I think this is really poignant right now, because as a community, we have lost that. Perhaps not lost, perhaps some people are trying in different ways to bring women together in different capacities. But I feel that, so much more could be done. And there's something that I would like to model sisters circles on. And I think you're doing something pretty similar. And that is something called the red tent. So the red tent theory goes back to, some people think it's like folklore, and some people say, oh, well, it actually happened. But nevertheless, whether it's one or the other, it's actually being recreated now in modern times, where you'll find lots of women in lots of countries are rising up and creating something called red tent circles. So the folklore, we'll call it folklore, says that the red tent was a place where women used to go in Hebrew times when they had their menstruation, and they used to gather together. They used to have, no men were allowed, and they used to have their times where they would meet up there. And they would have, times for discussion, heart to hearts. They would talk through their pains, through childbirth, through menstruation, menopause. And there would just be, a collective of women that were truly, truly there to support one another. Now, it doesn't have to be a circle when you're on your period, or, you're going away at this time because you've got menstruation, but it is a really good time, if you think about it, to do that, because this is when we should be resting and recuperating. And it's a time when probably all month, all kinds of things have happened, and you just need to purge that. You need somebody to understand and identify with you. So I think, what you're doing is just absolutely amazing in terms of bringing about this collective and helping women rise. And And I think we should have more circles. And, perhaps it would be at times when we all although we all seem to menstruate at different times. Now, traditionally, women would more or less menstruate at the same time because of the moon's influence, which is probably another subject.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that is such an incredible insight into how women used to practice self-care collectively. So it's an example of the power of women coming together to heal, to talk, to purge, to be witnessed in circle. And the reason why we call them women's circles is because a circle is there is no beginning and end point. There's no hierarchy. We're all on the same level. And we're all looking inward towards each other, and it creates this like container of safety and love and community and sisterhood. And I think that's really what I've been called to create with WeRise and now with Rising Sisterhood. It is just that bringing women together with a purpose, not just for like chit chat and social things or gossip or whatever. It's just purely for us to actually heal, grow, rise, learn from each other. As I said, be witnessed. I think there is something so powerful about sharing your experiences and speaking your truth and having other women validate that. And this is not to discount individual forms of self-care. Like, they're so important and necessary as well. Like, I'm the queen of self-care. Like, I do a lot to take care of myself on my own, and I need a lot of like alone time. That's just, I'm very sort of like 50-50 introvert extrovert, but absolutely central to my own personal healing journey has been connecting with other women and regularly having that support from other women, whether it's like face to face or whether it's online communities have been absolutely instrumental to me. And I just wanted to create that for Muslim women as well, because I think our experiences can be unique and only another Muslim woman can kind of get where you're coming from, and we don't have to explain ourselves or always be like the outsider or the one that's looked on as a little bit exotic or whatever. We can all just actually just be together. And yeah, we can't always meet in that same way that women used to. I don't believe this is folklore. From the research that I've done, I believe that it did used to happen, that women used to get together during the time of menstruation. And because there was no electricity at the time, which has interfered with our hormonal cycles, women did used to menstruate together. Yeah, and this has happened in all different cultures across the world. But I feel like that would be quite difficult to recreate in this modern world, but that doesn't mean that we can't find ways to create that community and sisterhood and those women's circles in a modern way now.
Yeah, I mean, there are many movements actually all over the world who are recreating this concept of the red tent and bringing about their own, whatever culture, religion, they're bringing about their own sense of women's circles and women's collectives. And I think it is time to tip the balance, because, so many women are rising up and they're saying, something's got to change. Like, something's got to change in society. Like, we know that we're built for, we were once part of tribes, we were once, we would dance together, we would sing together, we would menstruate together, we would be fully supportive of each other. And, it's nothing excites me more, actually. What you're doing is just, it's a game changer. It's a game changer, and we need it. We need it so badly. We've lost, this current culture that we have. I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, I'm from an English background, and literally, sometimes it feels like there's no community at all, and that even personally, I've faced a lot on my own, and I think this is why I've loved this work so much, because what I've been through, I've connected with women that have been through the same, and I've been able to give them the wealth of my experience and knowledge, which I've trained for, but also my own personal experience. And I have made connection with these women, and Yeah, I do say, you need to do certain modalities, certain, types of self-care. But the one thing that's really, really missing is that these connections that I've made is actually having that circle, that collective coming together. Because, when a sister says to you, I'm going through this and you've been through it yourself, your heart just, it wells up and you're like, you know what, I know this, I know that, I can help you here, I can help you there, I can point you in the right direction. I can tell you, I've had that experience too, and I'm here for you.
Women need other women. I think that's what it is. And this is a trick that the patriarchy has played on us by separating us from each other, because they know that when women come together, that's when we are our most powerful, because women naturally want to nurture and care for each other and offer advice and wisdom. And when we keep ourselves separate, then we're not getting that. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, what kind of problems has this created for women's health? This lack of community and sisterhood and connection to our wombs. What kind of problems are you seeing?
I read something recently that women who are waiting for gynecological appointments on the NHS could fill Wembley Stadium 8 times over.
Oh my God, that is a horrible
Really
statistic.
hard hitting. And on average, a woman that has endometriosis, it will take, I think it's 8 to 10 years before they're even taken seriously.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
And by the time women get seen, it's often the illness, the symptoms has progressed so much. And then whatever you're offered, it's not always a solution. And it's also done from a very clinical and sometimes delivered quite harshly. So we need solutions to, these health issues. But before we need solutions, we need preventative care. And the preventative care, I believe, is the Mizan therapy, the modalities that I go through with women, and also to prevent the emotional triggers of having womb issues.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Mizan therapy and what you do in that and how it helps?
So Mizan therapy is a type of womb massage therapy that helps to bring your womb into alignment. A lot of disease problems, symptoms occur when a womb is, if you like, suffering from an imbalance of some sort. So it could have moved. And when it moves, problems start to occur. So women may find that they have a lot of pain in menstruation. They may find that they have polyps, cysts, fibroids. They could have irregular periods. They could have very heavy, painful periods. And so what happens when someone comes for an appointment is that we look into any root causes that could have caused the womb to move. And a lot of those root causes will stem back to trauma or lifestyle. Sometimes diet has something to do with it. But there could be a starting point where the womb started to move and come out of alignment, and the symptoms started to occur, and then this was compacted by further trauma or illness or genetic issues, a whole range. So what we aim to do when someone comes for an appointment is to look at the root causes and see what lifestyle changes, what a woman can do to help help the womb to become more healthy. And we also give the treatment, which helps to release a lot of trauma. So oftentimes women may say, but I don't feel I have any problem. I dealt with my trauma years ago, and for some women they have. But the issues remain in our tissues. So the problem can still be there physically.
Body keeps the score, as they say.
Yeah, that's it. So in that time when we give the massage and we use several release techniques, we look at the womb, we look at the pelvis in terms of how we can treat it, and we use certain techniques to release tension in those areas. And then we'll also advise about how a woman can help themselves at home. So self-care techniques to help promote good circulation and good health with the womb.
So that includes things like herbs and tinctures and self-massage and yoni steaming and all the lovely things that you taught me that I started doing, which helped me so much as well as the actual therapy from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's those things, and it differs slightly depending on what someone comes for, but it's more or less those things. And then perhaps there would be a body wrap or some sort of wrapping where women need to support their womb as well.
Well, the castor oil packs as well.
Yeah,
They were
they
really helpful.
so powerful, and they've been used for castor oil's been used for thousands of years. I mean, and there's a lot out there online now about castor oil and castor oil packs, but you do need to see somebody a lot of the time just to give you the right advice and show you the right way to do it, because the mistakes can be made.
So just on that note of, what's one tip or bit of advice that you would give to women who want to kind of start reconnecting with their wombs and their feminine cycles, or just improve their health and well-being in general?
If you feel you've got a health condition, or you feel that you've got any symptoms pertaining to the womb where, you're in pain and such, I would start by writing a journal every day, just seeing where your energy lies and what sort of symptoms you're going through. And because what tends to happen is we get a pattern that forms, and from that pattern, we can predict how we're going to feel perhaps the next month and plan around it. But it's just the first thing that we can do to start to reconnect to our wombs. And there's a lot, and we can go through that in future, but that's where the first point that I would start from.
Amazing. I would really second that, actually. So just tracking your menstrual cycle, and your mood and energy and pain levels and things every day, I think is a really, really good place to start. That's certainly where I started. And if people do want to get in touch with you, find out more about your work, maybe they want to come to you for some Mizan therapy or follow you on Instagram, can you share where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. Instagram name changed. It actually changed recently, but if you put @FemRevive into Instagram, it'll probably come up.
Okay.
Yeah, I would stick with that because I'm playing about with the name a bit at the moment.
We all do that. Yeah, changed mine so many times.
So find me on there, drop me a message, let me see how I can help you.
And lastly, I just want to welcome you, Hannah, on board to our Rising Sisterhood team. So you are going to be one of our key teachers and facilitators. So you are going to be heading up one of the 5 keys to empowerment. So they are, for our listeners who don't know, the 5 keys to empowerment are educate, express, embody, elevate, and empower. And you are going to be looking after the embody pillar, which is all about well-being, women's health, and just finding that holistic balance between mind, body, and spirit, so that women can really thrive and be in right relationship with their feminine bodies. So I'm super excited to have you on
Thank you
board.
so much. No, thank you.
And we are
So amazing.
oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I just love what you do. It's amazing. I've been, looking for this for a long time. Yeah.
Well, women have been looking for each other, I think, for a long time. And, just
And,
like I
Allah
was,
drops people in your life. He knows what your heart is calling for, and he drops those people in your life. And, um, excited.
I know, and I'm so excited. And I really hope that, inshallah, the women listening to this, that this podcast is going to drop into the lives of the people who need to listen to it as well. And that what we're offering is going to reach the people that are looking for it. As you said, Allah puts things in your path when you're looking for that. And Rumi said, what you are seeking is seeking you. So that is my heartfelt prayer, that we reach as many women as we can, that they find us and they join us on this path to collective feminine empowerment. And on that note, I would just really ask all of our listeners to really help us to get the word out there about what we're doing with Rising Sisterhood, and share it with another woman who they think could benefit from the content of this podcast, because you never know whose day you might be changing, whose life you might be changing. Because I know I have learned so much from podcasts and YouTube videos, and we send them to each other all the time, don't we? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, so thank you so much for joining me today, Hannah, and can't wait to catch up with you again soon. Take care. Lots of love.
Okay. Blessings. Take care.
Bye.